The sun hadn't fully risen over the Florida highway when the call crackled through the ambulance radio. Code 3, construction site off I-95, male down, possible cardiac arrest. Respond immediately. Maya Thompson, a 34-year-old black paramedic with 8 years on the job, gripped the wheel of her rig and floored it. She was used to these early morning emergencies in the sprawling outskirts of Jacksonville, workers starting shifts before dawn, accidents waiting to happen. Her partner, rookie EMT Jamal Ruiz, rode shotgun, already prepping the defibrillator pads. Maya had moved to Florida from a small town outside Miami 5 years earlier, chasing better pay and a chance to specialize in trauma response. She was good at her job, damn good. Calm under pressure, quick with her hands, and always the first to spot the subtle signs that could mean life or death. Colleagues called her the Rock. Patients' families sometimes hugged her after she handed them over to the ER docs. But today, none of that would matter. If stories like this move you, if real-life courage, injustice, and strength inspire you, then this channel is for you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on your notifications so you never miss a powerful story like this again. And I want to know something personal. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments. I genuinely love connecting with every single one of you. We're building a global family here, and your support means more than you know. Now, let's get back to Maya's fight, because what happened next? It forced an entire department to answer for their actions. And trust me, you won't believe how it ends. The scene was chaos when they arrived, yellow caution tape flapping in the breeze, a cluster of hard-hatted workers hovering around a man sprawled on the gravel near a half-dug foundation. He was in his 50s, shirt soaked with sweat, clutching his chest. No pulse check yet, the workers had backed off when they heard sirens. Maya jumped out, kit in hand. Clear the area. I'm a paramedic, let me through. She dropped to her knees beside the patient, Jamal right behind her with the monitor. She checked airways, started compressions, strong, rhythmic, counting aloud. 1, 2, 3, the man's color was bad, lips tinged blue. Cardiac. She called for the AED while Jamal hooked up leads. That's when the police cruiser screeched up, lights flashing. Officer Daniel Hargrove stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, badge gleaming in the low light. He scanned the scene, eyes narrowing on the kneeling woman in the Navy uniform, her back to him as she worked. Everyone stepped back. Hargrove barked. This is a potential crime scene until I say otherwise. Maya didn't even look up at first. Sir, this is a medical emergency. Man down, possible MI. We need space, I said step back. Hargrove's voice sharpened. He moved closer, boots crunching gravel. Ma'am, I need identification. Now. Maya kept compressing. I'm doing CPR. My ID's in my pocket, give me a second. Hargrove's hand went to his belt. You're interfering with an investigation. Hands where I can see them. Jamal glanced up, confused. Officer, she's saving his life, both of you, stand up. Slowly. Maya felt the shift in the air, the way the workers went quiet. She paused compressions just long enough to meet Hargrove's eyes. They were hard, unblinking. Something in them made her stomach tighten, not fear exactly, but the cold recognition of a moment that could spiral. Officer, she said evenly, this man will die if I stop. Let me finish the cycle, then we talk. Hargrove didn't budge. Last warning. Stand up, or I'll make you. The workers murmured. One pulled out his phone, recording. Maya weighed her options in a heartbeat, patient first, always. She resumed compressions. Hargrove lunged forward, grabbing her arm. You're under arrest for resisting. Maya twisted instinctively to protect the patient. What do you get off me? I'm working. In seconds, it escalated. Hargrove yanked her backward, her knees scraping gravel. Jamal shouted, trying to intervene. Another officer arrived as backup, and soon Maya was face down on the ground, wrists cuffed behind her, cheek pressed to the dirt while the AED beeped uselessly nearby. The patient? A bystander took over compressions until another ambulance arrived minutes later. He survived barely. But Maya spent the next 7 hours in a holding cell, still in her uniform, blood from her scraped knees staining the fabric. No phone call. No explanation beyond obstruction and resisting without violence. By the time her supervisor posted bail and she walked out into the blinding afternoon sun, the video had already started circulating online. Cop arrests paramedic mid-CPR. Comments poured in, outrage, disbelief, calls for body cam footage. Maya didn't cry. Not then. She went home, showered off the gravel and humiliation, and called her union rep. What came next would shake the department, the city, and eventually land her a landmark settlement. But that morning on the construction site, as the cuffs clicked shut and the patient's faint pulse fought on without her, Maya Thompson knew one thing for certain: this wasn't just a bad call. This was the beginning of a fight she never asked for, but one she damn well intended to win. The Duval County Detention Center smelled like bleach and old sweat. Maya sat on the edge of the metal bench in the holding cell, wrists still raw from the cuffs, uniform pants torn at one knee. Her phone had been confiscated along with her stethoscope and trauma shears, standard procedure, they said. She stared at the scuffed floor and replayed the scene in her head like a bad dashcam loop. She hadn't resisted. Not really. She'd pulled away when he grabbed her bicep mid-compression because the patient's ribs were already cracking under her hands and stopping meant death. But in the report Officer Hargrove would later file, the words would read differently. Subject became combative, refused verbal commands, physically resisted lawful detention. By 2 p.m., the second shift supervisor, Lieutenant Carla Reyes, a no-nonsense Latina who'd been on the force 23 years, marched into booking with Maya's union rep in tow. Reyes took one look at the blood-streaked uniform, the gravel burns on Maya's cheek, and the footage already blowing up on local Facebook groups. Uncuff her, Reyes ordered the desk sergeant. Now. The sergeant hesitated. Sarge said hold her till, I don't care what Sarge said. This is one of our first responders, and she was mid-save when your guy decided to play cowboy. Uncuff her or I start making phone calls you won't like. The cuffs came off. Maya rubbed her wrists, said nothing. Reyes handed her a bottle of water and a protein bar from the vending machine. Union's got a lawyer en route, Reyes told her quietly. Don't say anything else until he gets here. Not one word. Maya nodded once. She already knew the drill. She'd testified in court twice before, as a witness in DUI crashes and once in a child abuse call where the father tried to claim the bruises came from rough play. She understood how quickly narratives could twist. Outside, the story was moving faster than anyone expected. The bystander video, shaky, 37 seconds, hit Twitter, still called that in most people's heads even after the rebrand, at 9:14 a.m. By noon it had 1.2 million views. The caption read, Paramedic saving a man's life gets arrested mid-CPR by Jacksonville PD. She's black. He's white. Guess which one stayed handcuffed while the patient almost died? Bodycam win. Hashtag spawned like wildfire. Hashtag justice for Maya. Hashtag paramedic arrested. Hashtag CPR while black. Hashtag Jacksonville PD. Local news picked it up by 3 p.m. Channel 4 ran the clip with a cheer-in. Emergency responder detained during life-saving effort, questions mount. At 4:47 p.m., the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office released a terse statement. An individual was taken into custody this morning after failing to comply with lawful orders at an active scene. The Sheriff's Office is reviewing body-worn camera footage and will provide updates as appropriate. The patient received medical attention and is in stable condition. No apology. No mention of Maya's name or profession. Just enough to sound official while saying nothing. Maya finally got her phone back at 6:12 p.m. when the lawyer, a sharp-eyed civil rights attorney named Kendra Mills from the Florida Justice Project, arrived with the bail paperwork already processed. Kendra was 41, wore her locks in a high bun, and carried herself like someone who'd already won the case in her head. First thing Kendra did was hand Maya her phone. "Scroll," she said. "You need to see how big this is before we talk strategy." Maya opened Twitter. Her notifications were north of 11,000. Strangers were tagging her, sending her money via Cash App links, posting GoFundMe campaigns she hadn't asked for. Paramedics from Miami to Tampa were changing their profile pics to black squares with white text, "Let paramedics work." A verified cardiologist with 800K followers had tweeted, "As a board-certified interventionalist, I can tell you, interrupting effective CPR for even 20 to 30 seconds significantly reduces survival odds." This officer didn't just arrest a paramedic. He endangered a life. Full stop. The replies underneath were a war zone. Some defended Hargrove, "She should have listened to police." Chain of command exists for a reason. Maybe she was mouthing off, "The video doesn't show audio." Why was she even there if cops were handling it? Others came for blood. This is textbook racial profiling. Imagine doing your job and getting thrown on the ground for it. Fire him. Sue the city. Burn it down. Maya handed the phone back. Her voice was steady, but quiet. "I just want to go back to work." Kendra looked at her for a long moment. "You will. But first we're going to make sure no one ever does this to another medic again. And we're going to make it expensive for them to forget." That night Maya slept 4 hours in her small apartment near the St. Johns River. She dreamed of compressions, endless, futile ones, while sirens wailed somewhere far off and never got closer. The next morning she woke to 3 voicemails from national news producers, a text from her mother in Miami, "Baby, are you okay? Call me now," and an email from Kendra with the subject line, "Subject, Initial Demand Letter, $2.5 million Notice of Intent to Sue." Maya opened it. The first line read, "Wrongful arrest, excessive force, deliberate indifference, and violation of civil rights under color of law, 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. She stared at the number. $2.5 million. She didn't feel powerful. She felt exposed. But she also felt something else, something small and hard and growing in her chest. Resolve. She texted Kendra back one line, "Do it." The press conference was scheduled for 11 a.m. sharp on the steps of Jacksonville City Hall. Kendra Mills had insisted on it, neutral ground, daylight, cameras rolling from every angle. No closed-door meeting with the mayor's people. No off-the-record chats. Everything public. Maya arrived in civilian clothes, black jeans, white blouse, hair pulled back in a neat twist. No uniform this time. She didn't want anyone mistaking her for the help ever again. Kendra walked beside her, briefcase in hand, flanked by 2 union reps and a representative from the National EMS Association who had flown in overnight from D.C. A crowd had already gathered, about 200 people by the time the clock hit 11. Paramedics in uniform, construction workers still wearing hard hats, local activists holding signs that read "Save Lives, not arrest them," and "CPR is not a crime." Phones were up everywhere. Live streams rolling. Kendra stepped to the makeshift podium first. "Good morning. My name is Kendra Mills, representing Maya Thompson, a decorated paramedic with Duval County Fire Rescue who, on the morning of October 17th, was wrongfully arrested while performing life-saving CPR on a cardiac arrest patient. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a close call. This was an intentional act of excessive force and racial bias that nearly cost a man his life and has traumatized an entire community of first responders." She paused, letting the words hang. "We are today announcing our intent to file a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city of Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and Officer Daniel Hargrove individually. The complaint will seek compensatory damages, punitive damages, injunctive relief, and attorney fees. Our initial demand for settlement is $2.5 million. We do not expect to negotiate downward." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked faster. Kendra gestured to Maya. Ms. Thompson would like to make a brief statement. Maya stepped forward. She hadn't prepared anything long. She didn't need to. I've been a paramedic for 8 years, she began, voice clear and measured. I've run into burning buildings, pulled people out of wrecked cars at 3 a.m., held mothers while we couldn't save their children. I do this job because someone has to. That morning, I was doing exactly what I'm trained and paid to do, save a life. Instead, I was pulled off that patient, forced to the ground, and handcuffed while he fought for his own. I wasn't resisting. I wasn't threatening anyone. I was working. She looked straight into the nearest camera. To every medic, firefighter, and nurse watching this, don't ever let fear stop you from doing your job. And to the city, fix this. Train your officers better. Hold them accountable. Because next time it might not be me on the ground. It might be your mother. Your child. Someone you love. She stepped back. No tears. No tremble. Just quiet steel. The questions came fast after that. Miss Thompson, did Officer Hargrove say anything racially charged? I'm not going to speculate on what was in his head. The video speaks for itself. Will you accept reinstatement and back pay? I'm already back on light duty next week. This isn't about my paycheck. It's about making sure no one else goes through this. Any comment on the sheriff's statement that you failed to comply? Maya met the reporter's eyes. I complied with saving a life. That should have been enough. By 1 p.m., the clip of her statement was everywhere. CNN, MSNBC, local affiliates, even international outlets picking it up under U.S. racial justice sections. Paramedic unions in 12 states issued solidarity statements. The International Association of Firefighters released a rare joint letter with the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians demanding federal DOJ review of use of force policies involving medical personnel. Behind the scenes, things moved quicker than most people realized. At 3:22 p.m., the city attorney's office called Kendra's direct line. They wanted to talk numbers. Kendra didn't budge. We're not settling for less than 7 figures, and we want policy changes in writing. Bodycam review protocols for EMS scenes. Mandatory de-escalation training specific to medical emergencies. And Officer Hargrove off the street pending full investigation. The city lawyer laughed once, nervous, not mocking. That's a tall order. Kendra's reply was ice. So was handcuffing a paramedic mid-compression. Call me when you're serious. That evening, bodycam footage was finally released, for separate angles, including Hargrove's. The internet dissected it frame by frame. At 0:47, Maya clearly states, I'm doing CPR. My ID's in my pocket, give me a second. At 0:52, Hargrove reaches for her arm without warning. At 1:03, he says, quiet but audible, I'm not asking again, girl. That one word, girl, lit the match. By midnight, #girl trended nationally alongside #justice for Maya. Civil rights attorneys flooded Kendra's inbox offering pro bono help. A prominent plaintiff's firm in Atlanta volunteered to handle discovery for free. Maya didn't sleep much that night either. She sat on her balcony overlooking the river, phone on silent, watching the numbers climb, GoFundMe at $187,000. She'd already asked them to redirect it to the local EMS scholarship fund, Cash App tags in the tens of thousands, strangers sending her flowers, gift cards, handwritten letters. One note, slipped under her apartment door by a neighbor she barely knew, read, "Thank you for not quitting. My son is alive because someone like you didn't stop." She folded it carefully and put it in the drawer with her badge. The lawsuit was filed the next Tuesday. Federal Courthouse, Middle District of Florida. Title, Thompson v. City of Jacksonville et al. 78 pages of allegations. Excessive force. False arrest. Malicious prosecution. Violation of First Amendment rights, right to perform her job without interference. Monell claim against the city for systemic failure to train. And in the damages section, bolded, plaintiff seeks $10 million in compensatory and punitive damages. The city's first counteroffer came 48 hours later. $750,000. Kendra laughed out loud in the conference room and texted Maya one line, "They're scared." Maya replied with a single emoji. The discovery phase hit like a freight train. Kendra's team subpoenaed everything: Hargrove's entire personnel file going back 12 years, every use of force report he'd ever written, every citizen complaint, sustained or not, every training record, every body cam activation log from the past 3 years. They pulled dispatch audio from that morning, dashcam footage from the cruiser, radio traffic between units. They even requested GPS data from the patrol car to map exactly how fast Hargrove had rolled up and how long he'd waited before approaching. What came back was a pattern. Hargrove had 11 prior complaints of overly aggressive demeanor or disrespectful language during traffic stops and scene responses, 6 involving black or brown individuals. Only 2 had been sustained, both resulting in verbal counseling. He'd been sent to de-escalation training twice in the last 4 years, but never completed the follow-up modules. In one 2023 incident, he handcuffed a 62-year-old black woman for failure to identify while she was actively directing traffic around a multi-car pileup she'd witnessed. The charges were dropped, no discipline followed. Then came the body cam audio bombshell. At 0:51, for seconds before he grabbed Maya, Hargrove's lapel mic captured him muttering under his breath to his arriving backup officer, who just pulled up another one playing hero. Probably thinks the badge don't mean shit when she's got scrubs on. The backup officer, body cam number 2, didn't respond on mic. But Internal Affairs later confirmed he'd nodded once. Kendra filed a motion to amend the complaint, adding new counts: supervisory liability against the shift sergeant who'd arrived second and done nothing to intervene, and a broader Manel claim alleging a custom of tolerance for racially biased policing at scenes involving medical personnel. The city's lawyers scrambled. They offered $1.8 million the following week. Kendra countered at $6.5 million plus structural reforms. Behind closed doors, the mayor's chief of staff started sweating through his dress shirts. The police union was furious. Hargrove was now on paid administrative leave, and the chief had quietly reassigned his training officer buddy who'd signed off on his last recertification. Protests had sprung up outside the public safety building every Friday for 3 weeks straight. Paramedics showed up in uniform, arms linked, silent except for the occasional chant, "Let us work." Maya, meanwhile, was back on the ambulance, but only light duty. Number 911 calls yet. She rode third on the truck, restocking supplies, training new hires, running inventory. It felt like exile dressed up as protocol. Every time the radio crackled with a cardiac call, her hands twitched. She'd catch herself gripping the jump bag too tight. One afternoon in early December, she was restocking trauma kits at Station 14 when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail, too many reporters still hounding her, but something made her answer. "Ms. Thompson? This is Dr. Elias Carter. I'm the cardiologist who treated your patient that morning, the gentleman from the construction site." Maya froze mid-motion, a roll of gauze halfway to the shelf. "He's asking to meet you," Carter continued. "He's out of the hospital now, rehabbing at home. He saw the news. He wants to thank you in person. And he wants to help." The man's name was Raymond Ray Delgado. 54, foreman on the highway expansion project, father of 3, grandfather of 2. He'd coded for almost 4 minutes before the second ambulance crew got him back. Triple bypass 2 days later. He still tired easily, still had to pause halfway upstairs, but he was alive. They met at a small park near the river on a Saturday morning. Ray arrived in a wheelchair pushed by his oldest daughter, Sophia. He wore a faded Jacksonville Jaguars cap and carried a small paper bag. Maya walked up alone, no cameras, no lawyers. Just her. Ray looked up at her, eyes wet before he even spoke. "I remember your voice," he said. "Counting. 1 and 2 and 3. I remember thinking, don't stop, lady. Don't you dare stop. Then everything went black. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in ICU with tubes everywhere, and my wife's telling me some cop arrested the woman who saved me. He reached into the bag and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver pendant, a tiny caduceus, the medical symbol with wings and intertwined snakes, engraved on the back with 3 words, "Thank you, Maya." "I can't give you back those hours in jail," Ray said, voice cracking. "But I can tell every damn person who'll listen what you did. And when this is over, I'm testifying. Whatever you need." Maya took the pendant. Her fingers shook just once. She slipped it over her head, right there in the park. "Thank you for fighting to stay alive," she told him. They hugged, careful, because of his sternum wires, and when they pulled apart, Sophia was crying quietly into her sleeve. That afternoon, Ray gave an exclusive interview to Channel 4. No prepared statement. Just him, in his recliner at home, oxygen cannula in his nose, looking straight into the lens. "That woman didn't know me. Didn't owe me nothing. But she put her hands on my chest and kept my heart going when it wanted to quit. And they put handcuffs on hers. If that ain't wrong, I don't know what is." The clip went viral again. This time with Ray's face. Real stakes. Real gratitude. By Christmas, the city's latest offer landed in Kendra's inbox, $3.75 million cash, plus $250,000 to the EMS Scholarship Fund in Maya's name, plus written policy changes including mandatory joint EMS, police training on medical emergency scenes, and a new protocol requiring officers to defer to on-scene medical personnel unless there is an immediate threat to life or safety. Kendra called Maya at home that night. "They're getting close," she said. "But we can push harder. The judge assigned to the case is Judge Elena Vasquez. She doesn't play when it comes to civil rights. We could take this to trial and probably get north of 7. Maybe 8 with punitives." Maya sat on her couch, pendant resting against her collarbone, staring at the river lights. "How much longer?" she asked. 6 months to trial if we don't settle. Maybe less if we keep the pressure on." Maya was quiet for a long beat. "I want it done," she said finally. "But I want it right. I want the training. I want the apology, not just to me, but to every medic who's second-guessed calling for backup since that day. And I want Hargrove gone. Not suspended. Gone." Kendra's voice softened. "We can ask for all of it. Then ask." The next morning, Kendra sent the counter, $5.2 million total, including $500,000 donation to first responder mental health programs, full policy package as previously outlined, public apology from the chief of police at a joint press conference with Maya present, and Officer Hargrove's termination, or forced retirement, as a condition precedent to settlement. The city went radio silent for 10 days. Then, on New Year's Eve, the call came. They'd meet in chambers. Judge Vasquez wanted both sides in the same room. No cameras. No leaks. Just the truth on the table. The federal courthouse in downtown Jacksonville smelled of lemon polish and old wood. On January 8, 2026, the parties gathered in Judge Elena Vasquez's private conference room on the 6th floor. No press, no spectators, just the long mahogany table, a pitcher of ice water, and the quiet click of the wall clock. Maya sat on one side with Kendra Mills and the union president. On the other, the city attorney, the sheriff's internal affairs commander, the mayor's chief of staff, and, seated at the very end, Officer Daniel Hargrove in a plain gray suit, no badge, no gun. He kept his eyes on the table. Judge Vasquez, 62, silver streaks in her black hair, didn't waste time. "We are here because a man almost died on a construction site while the person trained to save him was in handcuffs. I have read the body cam audio. I have read the complaint. I have read the pattern of prior complaints against Officer Hargrove. Let's not pretend this is complicated. Ms. Mills, your client's last demand." Kendra slid a single sheet across the table. $1 million to Ms. Thompson, $250,000 to the Duval County EMS Mental Health and Peer Support Fund in her name. Officer Hargrove's immediate and permanent separation from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. A public apology from the chief, live and unscripted, at a joint press conference with Ms. Thompson present. Mandatory 4-hour joint training for every patrol officer and every paramedic in the city, scenario-based, taught by EMS instructors on recognizing and deferring to on-scene medical authority. And a written policy change: no officer may physically interfere with life-saving procedures unless there is an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury to the medic or patient. The city attorney started to speak. Judge Vasquez raised one finger. "Mr. Hargrove," she said, turning to the officer, "you have the floor. 1 minute. Choose your words carefully." Hargrove cleared his throat. His voice was hoarse. "I made a mistake that morning. I saw a scene, I saw someone not in uniform doing compressions, and I assumed the worst. I didn't listen. I didn't wait. That man could have died because of me. Miss Thompson, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the humiliation. I'm sorry for the fear. I was wrong." Silence. Maya looked at him for the first time since the arrest. She didn't speak. She simply nodded once. The city attorney exhaled. "We can do $1 million. We can do the fund. We can do the training and the policy. The chief will apologize publicly. But termination, that's a union issue. We can't guarantee you can," Judge Vasquez cut in. "Because if you don't, we go to trial in 60 days. And I will instruct the jury that they may consider punitive damages with no cap. I have already reviewed the video. I have already reviewed the pattern. You will lose, gentlemen. And when you lose, the headlines will not say settlement. They will say jury awards $15 million after cop nearly kills cardiac patient." She let that hang. The chief of staff whispered to the city attorney. Papers shuffled. Phones came out for quick texts to higher-ups. 23 minutes later, the city attorney slid a revised settlement agreement across the table. $1 million to Maya Thompson. $250,000 to the fund. Officer Hargrove's employment terminated effective immediately. The union had already been quietly notified he would not fight it. The chief's apology scheduled for February 3rd at 10 a.m. on the steps of City Hall. All policy and training reforms accepted verbatim. Kendra read every line twice. Then she looked at Maya. Maya took the pen. Her hand didn't shake. She signed. When the papers were notarized and the judge had signed the order of dismissal, everyone stood. The city attorney offered his hand to Maya. She shook it with brief, firm, no smile. Outside in the hallway, Ray Delgado waited in his wheelchair, flanked by his wife and daughter. He had insisted on being there even though he wasn't required. When Maya walked out, he opened his arms. She knelt and hugged him, the caduceus pendant pressing between them. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she said. "We did it." That night Maya drove home alone. She stopped at the same construction site where it had all begun. The foundation was finished now, steel beams rose into the sky. She sat on the hood of her car and watched the sunset turn the river gold. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kendra: "Wire hits your account tomorrow. The GoFundMe you redirected just passed $412,000, still going to the scholarship. You're trending again. But this time it's hashtag Maya1." Maya typed back one line: "Thank you for believing I could." Then she turned the phone off, tilted her face to the warm Florida breeze, and let herself cry for the first time since the gravel had cut her knees. She had won. Not just the money. She had won the right for every paramedic in Florida and beyond to do their job without fear of being dragged away in cuffs. And somewhere in a quiet Jacksonville neighborhood, a 54-year-old grandfather named Ray Delgado was walking his granddaughter to the school bus, breathing on his own, because a black woman from Florida had refused to stop counting compressions. The fight was over. But the story, the real one, had only just begun. 1 year later, February 2027, the Duval County EMS headquarters had a new wing now. Not flashy, just functional. A dedicated training auditorium with tiered seating, a wall of screens, and a life-size mannequin setup for high-fidelity cardiac arrest simulations. Above the double doors hung a simple brass plaque, Maya Thompson Joint Training Center, dedicated to the memory of every life saved and every life nearly lost when first responders are allowed to do their jobs. It wasn't the $1 million settlement that paid for it. That money had gone mostly into a trust for Maya's future, college funds for her nieces and nephews back in Miami, and a quiet donation to rebuild the community center in her childhood neighborhood. The training center came from the city's separate $1.2 million allocation, part of the final settlement addendum Judge Vasquez had quietly encouraged during the last Chambers conference. "Call it restitution with interest," she'd said. Maya walked the halls every couple of months now, usually on her day off. She was back to full duty, night shifts, 24s, the works. The pendant Ray had given her still hung around her neck, tucked under her uniform shirt most days. She liked the weight of it. Today was a special class, the first mandatory joint session for the new academy recruits, 24 police cadets and 24 paramedic/proby EMTs, paired up at tables, running scenarios together. Maya stood at the back of the room, arms folded, watching. The instructor, a veteran paramedic named Torres who'd become one of the program's lead facilitators, projected the day's first scenario on the big screen: construction site, male 55, chest pain, cardiac arrest. Bystanders on scene. Police arrive simultaneously. What happens next? Torres didn't lecture. He just asked the room, who takes lead on patient care? A young black cadet raised his hand first. The paramedic. Full stop. A proby EMT next to him nodded. Officer's job is scene safety and traffic control. Not patient management unless the medic is down or requests help. Torres smiled. Correct. And if the officer disagrees? The same cadet answered without hesitation, defer. Document the disagreement on body cam audio. Escalate to supervisor if needed. But never interrupt effective CPR. Maya felt something loosen in her chest, something that had been knotted since that October morning. After the class broke for lunch, Torres found her in the hallway. They're different already, he said. The ones who came in after the policy change, they don't even blink at the chain of command shift. It's just normal now. Maya nodded. Good. That's the point. She didn't stay for the afternoon session. She had a lunch date instead. Ray Delgado waited for her at their usual spot, the Riverside Park bench near the old construction site, now a finished overpass humming with traffic overhead. He traded the wheelchair for a cane months ago, though he still moved carefully. His granddaughter, now 6, sat beside him swinging her legs, eating a juice box. Ray stood when he saw Maya. Miss Thompson, he said with that same half-grin he'd had the first day they met. Maya, she corrected him, same as always. They hugged. The little girl, Amara, tugged Maya's sleeve. Auntie Maya, look. I drew you saving Pop-Pop. She held up a crayon drawing, stick figure Maya doing compressions on a bigger stick figure Ray, hearts, and a big red ambulance in the background. Maya knelt. That's beautiful, baby. You even got the siren lights right. They sat and talked for an hour about Ray's new job as safety coordinator on a different site, no more digging foundations myself, doctor's orders, about Amara starting first grade, about Maya's recent promotion to field training officer. Before they parted, Ray pulled an envelope from his jacket. Open it later, he said. When you're alone. Maya waited until she got home that evening. Inside the envelope was a single photo, Ray and his whole family at the beach last summer, all smiling, all alive. On the back, in careful handwriting, every sunrise I see is because you counted to 30. Every hug from my grandkids is because you didn't stop. Thank you will never be enough, but it's all I've got. Ray tucked behind the photo was a folded check made out to the Maya Thompson EMS Scholarship Fund. $5,000. Maya sat on her balcony again, same view of the St. Johns River she'd stared at 100 times since the settlement. The water was calm tonight, reflecting the last pink light of day. She thought about the morning it all started, the gravel under her cheek, the cuffs, the patient's faint pulse fighting without her. She thought about the $1 million that had come and mostly gone into other people's futures. She thought about the training center, the new cadets, the policy that now had teeth. And she thought about how none of it would have happened if she just stood up when Officer Hargrove told her to. She lifted the pendant to her lips, kissed it once, then let it fall back against her skin. Then she texted Kendra one line, "Still worth it?" The reply came almost instantly, every single day. Maya smiled, small, private, real. She stood, walked inside, and turned on the news. A different story was playing tonight, a multi-vehicle crash on I-95, first responders on scene, no arrests, no interruptions. Just people doing their jobs. She turned the volume down, poured a glass of wine, and sat back to watch the river some more. The fight had ended. But the work, the real, quiet, life-saving work, never would.